Okay, Mr. Chairman, I believe we are live, so I think we're good to go ahead and get started.
Okay, let's call the Bryant Planning Commission meeting to order. Monday, March 8th, 2021, 6 p.m. Via Zoom. And Mr. Secretary, if you'll call the roll, please.
All right. Staton.
Here.
Hooten.
Here.
Penfield.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Irwin.
Here.
Poe.
Rick, you got your mic muted.
I think something is going wrong with your mic there.
It looks like it's muted.
It's muted.
Raise your hand. There it is. He raised his hand.
All right, he's here. Burgess.
Here.
Mayfield.
Here.
All right, everyone is here.
Okay, first order of business is the approval of last month's minutes. So you should have received the minutes in your packet. Do we have any motion on those?
I move they be accepted. Second. I move they be accepted.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes from last month are approved. We'll move now to the DRC report. I'd like to ask Vice Chairman Walter to read those, if he would, please.
Thank you. Tropical Smoothie, 118 Harvest Drive. They were requesting a sign permit that was approved by staff. Saline County Airport, on the subject of new hangars, they were requesting approval for to build new hangars. That says approved as well. Raymond Jones at 3316 Highway 5. They were requesting a sign permit approval that was approved by staff. Purdy Funnel Cakes, Highway 5. Mr. Purdy was requesting approval for a temporary business license that was approved by staff. LKQ at Bryant, they were requiring permit and it was approved by staff. United Methodist Church, 508 North Reynolds Road. They were requesting approval for a new portico and that was approved. Lindsay Pools, 3213 Main Street, requesting sign permit approval. Staff approved the signs for facade 1 and 2. Copper and Salt Salon at 6221, approved by staff. Chico Hibachi, 313 Main Street, requesting a sign permit approval that was approved by staff. American Freight at 22401 I-30, they're requesting a sign permit and that was approved by staff. Geyer Springs Baptist Church, looking for conditional use permit for a new storage building. That comes with a recommended approval. Geyer Springs Baptist Church, requesting a non-standard building approval for that same storage building. No recommendation from similarly Grace Village Phase 3, Garnett Engineering requesting preliminary plat approval, and that comes with the recommended approval.
Okay, that's the end of the DRC report. Thank you, Walter. We'll move now to our public hearing and open that. First item up is Geyer Springs Baptist Church, new storage building, requesting approval for conditional use permit. This did come with a recommendation from DRC, and you should have documents on that. Truett, or someone want to fill us in a little bit?
Sure thing. And I think we've got a representative from the applicant that I can bring on here in just a little bit. But it's a storage building. Well, it's calling it just a storage building is probably not proving it justice. This is a building that they plan on storing some of their equipment for the facilities that they have out there. Colton, can you bring up a picture of it, elevations of it? So the reason why the conditional use permit is that for the use and the zoning that's out there, they have to get this conditional use permit in order to build the structure. So they're coming for you for that approval here. And there's an additional approval later in the meeting that we can get into then that has to deal with the facade of the building. But as you can see there, it's got 2 garage doors on it that they're just planning on being able to store the different equipment for the fields out there that they use for recreation and whatnot. So if there's any questions for me, I'll be happy to field them. And if not, I'll go ahead and let Mr. Wolf in.
So why does it require conditional use? Because there's no, I realize it's because of the, probably commercial zoning, but what's unusual about building a building on this particular zoning piece of property?
Yeah, good question. So it's actually because it's residential zoned. So it's zoned RE, residential. Mm-hmm. So any larger building like that for that kind of use has to get the conditional use permit. I think if it was zoned commercial, it wouldn't have to have a conditional use permit, but because the entire parcel is zoned RE, that's what's requiring it in the zoning code.
They are removing something to build this, correct?
There is a couple structures on site that they've gotten rid of, and then they're coming back with this structure.
Okay.
Hey, Truett, can a church can exist in an RE? Isn't that one reason why they're having to come in for conditional use is to use the property for church purposes and build the building in RE?
Correct. That is one of those. It can exist in there, but it has to have the conditional use with the RE.
Perfect.
I think if there's nothing further for me, I'll let Mr. Wolf join us and add any further comment.
Yes, sir.
Hi, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Mr. Wolf, could you tell us just a little bit about what you're doing and the design and what it's going to look like and things like that?
Yes, sir. This is a building. It's technically to replace two barns that have been on this property since the church bought it. They're in pretty rough shape. And they're scheduled to come down this month in an agreement with the developer across the Raymar there with some drainage things. But they're scheduled to come down later this month. And so the church needs a facility where they can store, they've got a side-by-side that they use, a trailer, portable soccer goals, all kind of sports equipment that they use on the property. And so that's what this facility is main purpose would be. It's a metal building structure. We're looking at, you can see on the elevations there with some split face block on a few of the elevations. It blends in a lot with what the facility that's already there, their toilet facility that they currently have, the toilet pavilion that currently sits on that site. Anything else I can tell you? I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from commissioners?
What's the approximate square footage?
Oh, let's see. I think it's 30 by 80, so 2,400 square feet. I think that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Randy, that's going to be located next to the building already there, correct?
Yes, sir. It's adjacent to, I think it's in that other document, Colton, but it's adjacent, it's perpendicular, but adjacent to the other facility that's there. It sits over 400 feet from Raymar, and I think about over 1,200 feet from Bryant Parkway. So it's quite a ways back there.
Okay, and what we're looking at today, right now, is just the conditional use permit. We'll talk about the building materials and things like that a little bit later. So any other questions about the conditional use permit? And do we have any public comment, calls, questions, or anything like that, Colton?
So I received, I think, 4 phone calls about the public hearing. When I explained to them the reason for it, and that's just the church building, the new building there, everybody was for it. Didn't have anybody complain once they found out it was just the church building, the new building out there.
Okay. Truett, is there anybody in the public wanting to speak or comment on this issue?
Let me check one more time, make sure we haven't had anybody register. No, there's not.
Okay. If there's no further questions, I will like to take a roll call vote. Okay, Colton, go ahead and do roll call.
All right. Mayfield,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Hooten,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Penfield,
Yes.
Staton,
Abstain?
Irwin,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes. Okay. All right, it passes, and we will close the public hearing at this time and move toward new business. For new business, we have Geyer Springs Baptist Church, new storage building. They're requesting a non-standard building approval. And so Truett, you want to fill us in just a little bit? You should have some documents on that as well.
Sure thing. So with the design standards, and Colton, if you could bring up those elevations, that'll be handy too. There's 2 things on it. The design standards say both sides and the front to meet the code. Their eastern elevation is metal paneling, has too much metal paneling on it. So that's one of the parts of the non-standard building. And then the other part is they would like to do exposed fasteners instead of concealed fasteners. So those are the 2 problems when it comes to the design standards and the 2 requests coming for the non-standard building approval.
Okay. Randy, are you still with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On the exposed fasteners, I'm looking at how far. It looks like 415 feet from Raymar Road and 1,281 feet from Bryant Parkway. Do you feel like anybody from driving down the road on Raymar will notice whether or not it has exposed fasteners, or do you feel like that'll be an issue?
I do not. That from the distance from the road, I don't think anybody will be able to tell whether it's got fasteners or not. I mean, that proof of that, or in order to prove that, we could look at the existing facility from the road, and I don't think you can tell on that building what the metal panel has, and it is exposed fasteners. But I do think if you get up close, obviously where people who use the facility will be, that's where you'd really notice a difference. And so we'd like to kind of keep it in line with what's currently on the property.
Does the metal match the other building on the property?
It would match the same color, same profile, everything.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners?
I drove out there and you can't see any details from Raymar.
Well, there's a playground there as well.
Yeah.
Randy, is that playground in front of this going to be where, I forgot exactly where that playground is located?
The playground really sits more in front of the existing facility. From a certain direction, yes, it would block this building, but it wouldn't from the other direction. So.
Okay.
And I think it's far enough away from that neighborhood over there. That's it's reasonably close to it, but I don't think you can see anything from there either. To the east, I have my directions right.
I think that's right. Yes, ma'am. But
Mm-hmm.
you're right. I think we're about as far from there, maybe a little bit closer than from Raymar Road, but it's still a good 600-700 feet for sure.
And they all have privacy fences anyway.
Yeah, they do.
And it definitely is an improvement getting rid of those barns.
Yes, they're still out there.
Yeah, we're working. They're waiting on some drier weather to get in there to remove those barns. We're struggling here.
So, Mr. Chairman, does it make sense to split these two topics? One for the metal and then one for the coverage percentage, and then the second item being the exposed fasteners. Does it make sense to split them, or should we treat that as one object?
I think probably since it's a one request, probably treat it as one. I'm sure we can split it. We can request, if that's a motion, we can make that request that they do one or the other, or approve one without the other, I believe. Am I right, Truett?
Yeah, y'all could do two different votes on it if you wanted to, or you can do it as one. I think y'all as a body can choose to do that.
Truett, tell me again, the exposed fasteners, I understand. The other part where they don't meet the code, explain that one more time.
Yeah, so the code says that both sides and the front must meet the code. And in this case, that eastern side, so that side that's going towards the neighborhoods, is only metal, as you can see there right next to, where Colton's pointing right there. So that portion of it doesn't meet the code because it only has metal paneling. It doesn't have the block like the other side has that you can see on just below that.
That elevation in the current design sits about, I think it's about 20-25 feet back from the edge of the building. It's some outdoor storage in that area. And as far as from the front, we are proposing to put a block screen wall in the front elevation to hide it from that view. So you would only see that view from a straight on elevation, which would be almost directly from that neighborhood.
So when I'm looking at the east elevation, I'm actually looking through a covered open
Yes, sir.
carport.
Yes, sir.
And the metal that we're seeing there is setting back 20 or so feet back, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you're proposing on the north elevation to put a screening in front of that, is that?
Yes, sir. On that elevation, that exterior wall is continued all the way to the edge of the building there, as you can see. So it is screened from the north.
And open on the east and the south.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any further questions or motion or thoughts about splitting it up further?
I mean, I personally think this Lance, it's in an RE zone. Exposed fasteners, unless Truett corrects me, are allowed in an RE zone. The facade materials are allowed in a RE zone. I mean, the surrounding properties are residential properties. The use dictates that, I mean, a church is allowed in an RE zone. I'd make a motion that we approve both variances as stated, as requested.
Okay. All right.
Second.
All right. All right. I agree with that. Let's take a roll call vote, or do we need to approve that motion? Let's go ahead and approve that motion. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
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 I think we have enough ayes. We're going to vote on both. We're approving both elements of the non-standard building, the exposed fasteners, and the metal facade on the east side. So let's take a roll call vote, Colton, please.
All righty. Let's see, Poe,
He said yes.
okay. Hooten,
Yes.
let's see, Mayfield,
Yes.
Penfield,
Yes.
Staton,
Abstain.
Irwin,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes. Okay. It passes, and we'll move now to the next item. Grace Village, Phase 3, Garnett Engineering requesting preliminary plat approval. Do we have someone here, Truett, representing?
Yes, we do. I think Vernon's with us, and as I get him in here, I can say that this is the third phase of this development. That it already has an existing pre-annexation agreement to hook up to the sewer. And I believe all the details have been worked out through DRC. So this comes fully recommended. There was some conversation with the county on this since it's in the county, because it is in our planning area. And I believe all of those comments have also been resolved. I think with that, I think we've got Vernon here.
Hello.
Hey,
Can you hear
Vernon.
me?
Yes, we can.
Hey. I think Truett hit the high points. I'd answer any questions you guys have about this.
Is this the final phase, Vernon, or will there be a phase in that?
It is the final phase for what the developer owns right now. We have set it up where we have access to the property south of us, which the developer does not control, but just seemed to make sense to do that. This will be the end of what he turned in when he did his initial preliminary plat for the property.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners? This did come with a recommendation from DRC. So, Colton, let's do a roll call vote, please.
All right. Mayfield,
Yes.
Poe,
He said yes.
yes. Penfield,
Yes.
Hooten,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes. Okay, it passes. Thank you, Vernon. Next item and final item is the director's report from Truett.
Yeah, so I've got a few things I just wanted to share with y'all. I'm not sure. I know I've shared this in a couple of meetings, but I wanted to make sure y'all know Bryant Parkway, just a little update on it. We got our sort of a big approval from the federal bodies over this, so both the FAA and the FHA, the highway.
Good.
That was a huge step for us. We'd been waiting on that, so now a lot of other things are going to get to move forward, and hopefully we're still planning on breaking ground on that project probably towards the end of this summer. So that's really exciting. And Ted and his group have been working hard on that too. So that was great to get to this point. And I think it's not to say it's downhill from here, but that was a huge hurdle to get past. So that's really exciting. Another thing I wanted to mention is the intersection improvements that are going to happen to Hilltop, Hilldale, and Bryant Parkway. So that's the intersection that's closest to Parkway Elementary. We got some final approval on that as well. So that'll start. I think the goal is to get the majority of that work done during the summer when there's no school traffic, and then working around the school traffic because it can't all get done in the summer to finish that up this year. So that'll happen pretty quickly.
Now, is that a roundabout they're putting in?
That is. So that's with a Metro Plan grant, and that is a roundabout. A couple of other things. There's going to be a lot of new software happening this year for us. So we signed a new deal, Civic Clerk. So Civic Plus is the people who do our website. Civic Clerk is a new software for our agendas. So that's going to start looking a little differently. And there'll be a little bit of a training that y'all can either attend in person or watch as a video that I think will help, really help our process. I know it's really going to help Colton out a lot of the stuff he has to do. So, and then we're also going to be getting new software for both our planning and code and permits processes. So that's going to go along with our new software for our financing. So we're going to be the guinea pigs and go first. And I think it's really going to help us out.
When will that take place, Truett?
So that will be a little bit longer. So as soon as we sign the contract, which we're in negotiations with them now, on that, we'll get put on a list, sort of like a holding or standby list for when they free up and they can get to us. But it usually takes about 6 to 8 months to do that whole process and get through there. So it'll be time consuming, and it won't be easy, and it'll be difficult. But I think when we get on the other side of it, it's got the new software will have a lot more ability for the public to interact with us and our work order system, as well as our developers being able to see where their permits are, or even applicants here to Planning Commission and DRC being able to see where they are in the process, and then what other steps they have to have. It'll also, we'll be able to do things like online submittals. Right now, they still have to submit it to us via email and a hard copy. And with the new software, eventually we should be able to move fully digital, and they can apply online through an application on the website. So there'll be some pretty big changes, but I think most of them will be very positive for us, and I think get us in the right direction. It's not that our software right now has been good for where we're at, but I think we're ready to grow up a little bit more and use these new tools to really help everybody out. The two other things I wanted to mention is I feel like the staff approval on the signs has been going well for the facade signs. It seems to move the sign approval process much faster for those facade signs, and I think Colton's been doing a great job of that. And I know it's sped up DRC some as well, especially for those that just seem, they meet the code. So go ahead and move forward with them. And then any of the ones that are outside that, I think DRC has been able to handle a lot of that conversation. The last thing I wanted to mention is something you'll be getting an email from me tomorrow inviting you to, but it's just sort of a training that'll be pretty cool. It's put on by the University of Central Arkansas. And I think it's sort of like a community development economic training that we can all be a part of. So I'm pretty excited about it. Staff will be included in that training, so all the department heads are going to be a part of it. I think it's going to be something that's going to be really cool for everybody to participate in. So I think with that, I'm with some of the guidelines going away, I hope maybe our next meeting, if everything goes well, we may be able to, or I should say directives, because they've been changed to guidelines, but have a way to meet in person, or hopefully we're getting closer to that.
Wow, that'd be great.
Not that I don't, Zoom is inconvenience in some way, but I feel like getting in person should be an imminent goal for us, as long as we can do it safe and follow the rules that we need to follow, of course. But I'll be in touch with y'all via email, and we'll just see how that goes.
Trude, I have one question about today's agenda.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Walter.
I said I had one question about today's agenda.
Yeah.
The hangars at the Saline County Airport, those are pretty large structures. How big were those, and what is the approval authorization for square footage by staff?
Yeah, we have to answer that. So the airport is kind of an interesting approval process, because really the approval we give is DRC, since they're federal aviation. Like, the oversight for them comes more from the federal aviation than it does the city of Bryant. So what we're really doing there is just giving a head nod to the utility aspects of it and the fire code, that everything works there. We really don't have the same sort of oversight as other areas because they are federal aviation, because they're a federal building and everything.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
Okay.
I understand why it was different. Thanks.
Yeah.
Post office and the airport, we have no jurisdiction over.
Good to know. All right. Well, I have make a motion to adjourn then.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ah,
Okay, we are officially adjourned.
all right. Bye, everybody.